The air below deck smelled of salt, damp wool, and old iron. Somewhere above them, waves slapped against steel while boots echoed across the ship's narrow passageways. A dim yellow bulb swung gently overhead, casting moving shadows across dozens of weary faces. Some women sat silently against wooden crates. Others clutched small bundles containing everything they still owned. No one spoke loudly. Even whispers seemed too heavy to carry. Anna Weiss kept her hands folded tightly in her lap, her fingers wrapped around a silver teaspoon hidden inside a handkerchief. It had once rested beside porcelain cups in her mother's kitchen in Munich. Now it was the only object she had managed to keep. At 24 years old, Anna had spent most of her life learning how sugar changed color, how cream thickened over slow heat, and how a pastry should smell when it was ready. She had dreamed of opening a small cafe with her mother someday. They had imagined lace curtains in the windows, fresh cakes displayed behind glass, and customers lingering over coffee while music drifted from an old radio. Now she did not know if her mother was alive. She did not know where the ship was taking them. She did not know why American soldiers would transport young German women across an ocean instead of sending them home. And she certainly could not imagine that one day she would laugh over a strange drink covered with melting ice cream. At that moment, she only knew that the world she understood had disappeared. She had crossed the ocean as a prisoner. She would arrive somewhere entirely unexpected. The first glimpse of land appeared at dawn. Women crowded against the railing despite the cold wind that stung their faces. Mist hovered above the harbor while distant buildings rose from the shoreline. Trucks moved along narrow roads. Smoke drifted from factory chimneys. Anna watched in silence. No ruined rooftops. No shattered church towers. No piles of bricks. Everything seemed untouched. Almost peaceful. She felt something unfamiliar. Not relief. Not happiness. Confusion. How could ordinary life continue while Europe had become a graveyard? Beside her stood Greta Mahler, a former seamstress from Cologne whose quick smile had survived even the darkest days. "Do you think they hate us?" Greta whispered. Anna hesitated. "I don't know." Greta nodded slowly. "I suppose we will find out." American soldiers directed the women toward waiting trucks. No one shouted. No dogs barked. No rifles were raised. The soldiers spoke calmly, repeating instructions in simple German phrases they had memorized. A tall officer introduced himself as Captain James Ashford. His uniform was neatly pressed, but his expression remained unreadable. "You will receive food, clothing, and medical examinations," he said through an interpreter. "You are expected to follow camp rules." He paused. "No one here wishes to punish you." The women exchanged uncertain glances. Years of propaganda had prepared them for cruelty. Kindness felt more frightening. Kindness demanded trust. Trust required hope. And hope could be dangerous. The camp itself stood several miles from a small American town. Wooden barracks lined gravel paths. Laundry fluttered between poles. A faint smell of bread drifted from somewhere nearby. Anna almost stopped walking. Bread. For months she had associated bread with scarcity. Hard crusts. Thin slices. Careful measurements. Now the scent was warm. Fresh. Generous. She swallowed hard. Inside the barracks, each woman received blankets, soap, towels, and a small locker. Anna placed her handkerchief inside. For a moment she unfolded it. The silver teaspoon reflected a narrow beam of sunlight entering through the window. She remembered her mother stirring chocolate into warm milk. She remembered flour dust floating through their kitchen. She remembered promises made before everything changed. "We will open our cafe," her mother had said. "No matter what happens." Anna quickly wrapped the spoon again. Promises belonged to another life. Or perhaps they belonged to someone she no longer was. The following days settled into routine. Breakfast. Roll call. Medical inspections. Cleaning duties. Waiting. Always waiting. Waiting for news. Waiting for letters. Waiting for decisions made by strangers. Anna spoke little. She watched. She listened. She memorized faces. Captain Ashford represented fairness. He enforced rules without anger. Corporal Daniel Morales represented humor. He greeted everyone with awkward German words that often made no sense. One morning he proudly announced, "Today weather tastes beautiful." Even the most reserved women laughed. For the first time in many months, Anna smiled. Another officer remained distant. Sergeant Harold Novak supervised camp supplies. He rarely spoke. When he did, his voice sounded firm and practical. Trust, Anna noticed, was not given freely. It had to be earned. After nearly 2 weeks, camp administrators began assigning work details. Laundry, garden maintenance, kitchen assistance, storage inventory. Names were read aloud. Greta joined the laundry team. Several women were assigned to sewing repairs. Anna waited. Captain Ashford glanced down at his clipboard. Anna Weiss. She stepped forward. Kitchen. Her heart skipped. Kitchen. A simple word. Yet it felt like someone opening a door she believed had been permanently locked. She followed Sergeant Novak toward a brick building near the dining hall. Steam escaped from vents above the roof. Metal pans clattered inside. Voices overlapped. Someone laughed. Someone dropped a spoon. The sounds reminded her of home. Novak opened the door. Heat rushed outward carrying scents of butter, onions, cinnamon, and coffee. He studied her expression. You worked with food before? Anna nodded carefully. Pastries. Cakes. Some breads. Novak motioned toward shelves lined with ingredients. Then perhaps you can help. Anna looked around. Large sacks of flour. Fresh eggs. Milk bottles. Sugar. More sugar than she had seen in years. For several seconds she simply stared. She had expected punishment. Instead she found abundance. She had expected suspicion. Instead she found opportunity. Yet uncertainty remained. Would Americans truly trust a German prisoner inside their kitchen? Would she ever hear from her mother again? Would this strange country become another temporary stop on a journey back home? Or was she standing at the beginning of a life she had never imagined? Anna tightened her fingers around the hidden teaspoon in her pocket. She had crossed an ocean carrying a memory. She did not yet realize she was about to discover a taste unlike anything she had ever known. For several days, Anna hardly spoke. She measured flour, washed mixing bowls, peeled potatoes, stacked trays, and watched. The American kitchen moved differently from the bakeries she had known in Munich. There was less shouting, less urgency. People seemed to trust that the work would be finished. Even mistakes did not create panic. They simply became another problem to solve. Steam drifted upward from giant kettles each morning. Coffee simmered in large metal urns. Fresh loaves cooled on wooden racks near the windows. Outside, spring rain tapped softly against the glass. Inside, warmth wrapped around everyone like a blanket. Sergeant Novak supervised every task. He inspected inventory, counted supplies, checked temperatures, recorded deliveries. But he rarely criticized anyone. He preferred questions. On Anna's third day in the kitchen, he placed a tray of pastries in front of her. What do you see? Anna examined them carefully. The dough looked pale. The glaze appeared uneven. She hesitated. The butter was too cold. Novak nodded. And she picked one up. The oven temperature changed. Again he nodded. Finally, a faint smile appeared. You understand food. Anna lowered her eyes. I used to. Novak wiped his hands with a towel. No. You still do. Those words remained with her long after the shift ended. Perhaps skills did not disappear. Perhaps they simply waited. Waiting, Anna realized, seemed to define every part of her new life. Waiting for assignments. Waiting for letters. Waiting for permission to hope. At night, she often unfolded the handkerchief beneath her blanket. The silver teaspoon reflected the dim light hanging from the barracks ceiling. She remembered stirring whipped cream beside her mother. She remembered tasting vanilla custard directly from a wooden spoon. She remembered laughter. Then she carefully wrapped the spoon again. Some memories comforted. Others wounded. Weeks passed. Faces became familiar. Corporal Morales visited the kitchen almost every afternoon. He always carried too many apples. Or too many oranges. Or too many jokes. One afternoon he entered holding a basket. Important delivery, he announced proudly. Everyone looked up. What is it? Greta asked. Morales grinned. Emergency bananas. Greta blinked. There is such a thing? No. But now there is. Even Sergeant Novak laughed. Anna surprised herself by laughing too. Small moments mattered. Small moments reminded people they were still human. Morales also enjoyed teaching English. Sometimes intentionally. Sometimes accidentally. He pointed toward a loaf of bread. Bread. Anna repeated. Bread. He lifted a cup. Coffee. Coffee. He pointed toward sugar. Sugar. She smiled. Sugar. Then he pointed toward himself. Handsome. Anna raised an eyebrow. Morales laughed. No. That word means trouble. Soon several women practiced English during meals. Thank you. Good morning. Please. Beautiful weather. Anna learned slowly. At first the words felt awkward. Foreign. Heavy. But gradually they became easier. Language, she discovered, was much like baking. One ingredient at a time. One mistake at a time. One success at a time. Then came her first failure. Sergeant Novak wanted to prepare pastries for a small gathering of officers. He allowed Anna to suggest a recipe. She chose cream-filled buns similar to those she once sold in Munich. For hours she worked carefully. She kneaded dough, measured sugar, prepared vanilla filling, watched the oven, waited, and then everything collapsed. The filling separated. The cream became watery. The buns lost their shape. Anna stared silently at the ruined tray. Months of uncertainty. Weeks of adaptation. And suddenly she felt useless again. Novak approached quietly. He picked up one pastry, tasted it, then placed it back down. Why are you upset? Anna swallowed hard. I forgot. Forgot what? Who I used to be. Novak folded his arms. You are measuring yourself against memories. She looked away. My mother taught me this recipe. I never ruined it. Novak nodded thoughtfully. Kitchen workers must understand something important. What? He wiped flour from his hands. You cannot make what you do not understand. Anna frowned. I don't understand. You used dried milk. You are trying to recreate Germany with American ingredients. Learn what is in front of you. Then bake. For several moments neither spoke. Finally Anna nodded. Perhaps she had spent too much time chasing old versions of herself. Perhaps learning to live again required accepting unfamiliar things. Even unfamiliar milk. A week later, a letter finally arrived. Women gathered around the distribution table. Each envelope represented possibility. Hope. Fear. Closure. Captain Ashford called names one by one. Greta received a postcard. Another woman burst into tears. Someone else smiled. Anna waited. Nothing. Again. Nothing. Then finally. Anna Weiss. She almost ran forward. The envelope was worn. Edges folded. Ink faded. She recognized her mother's handwriting immediately. Hands trembling, she returned to her bunk. Greta sat beside her. Aren't you going to open it? Anna nodded. Slowly. Carefully. As though opening something sacred. Inside she found only one page. The message was brief. Anna. I am alive. The apartment survived. There is little food. Little heat. But I am alive. I think about our cafe every day. Do not lose yourself. No matter where you are. Love. Mother. Anna pressed the paper against her chest. For the first time since leaving Europe, she allowed herself to cry. Not from sadness. Not entirely. Relief had its own tears. That evening she unfolded the silver teaspoon. For months it had represented loss. Now it represented promise. Perhaps some dreams survived war. Even damaged dreams. As summer approached, preparations began for an unusual celebration. American Independence Day. Flags appeared near the administration building. Music rehearsals could be heard from town. Children visited with their families. Extra supplies arrived. Boxes of fruit. Ice cream. Bottles filled with dark liquid. Anna examined them curiously. The labels meant nothing. Greta picked one up. Wine. Anna shook her head. No. Beer. Morales overheard them. He smiled. Root beer. Greta looked confused. Beer made from roots. Morales laughed. Something like that. Do Americans drink this often? All the time. Anna sniffed one bottle. Sweet. Spicy. Vanilla. Almost medicinal. Strange. Very strange. Then another surprise arrived. Large containers of ice cream. Vanilla. Rich and creamy. Greta whispered. They must be celebrating. Anna nodded. Perhaps officers receive champagne. Morales grinned. Champagne. Even better. He refused to explain further. Curiosity spread quickly through the barracks. Women exchanged theories. Perhaps Americans mixed beer with cream. Perhaps it was cider. Perhaps some kind of dessert. Nobody knew. For 2 days anticipation grew. Then the celebration finally arrived. Music drifted across the camp. Children chased one another through the grass. Families laughed. People danced. Sunlight reflected from windows. And inside the kitchen, Sergeant Novak stood beside a long table. Rows of tall glasses waited. Ice cream scoops rested nearby. Bottles of root beer covered another table. Novak motioned toward Anna. "Help me." She watched carefully. He placed one scoop of vanilla ice cream into a glass. Then another. Then slowly poured root beer over the top. Foam exploded upward. Fizzing. Crackling. Spilling over the sides. Greta gasped. Anna stepped backward. The bubbling drink sparkled beneath the afternoon light. Greta leaned closer. "It looks expensive." Anna smiled. "Maybe this is American champagne." Several women nodded. For a moment everyone simply admired the glasses. After years of rationing. After years of hunger. After years of fear. The drinks seemed impossibly luxurious. Morales appeared behind them. "So, what do you think?" Greta answered first. "It must cost a fortune." Morales burst into laughter. Anna finally asked, "What is it called?" He handed her a glass. Root beer float. Anna studied it. Ice cream floating inside soda. Cold bubbles touching melting cream. Nothing in Europe had prepared her for this. Nothing in Germany resembled it. She took a cautious sip. Sweet. Creamy. Sparkling. Vanilla and spices mixing together. Greta tasted hers. Her eyes widened. "Oh. Oh no. What? It isn't champagne." Everyone laughed. Even Sergeant Novak smiled. And for several minutes, prisoners and guards forgot titles. Forgot uniforms. Forgot oceans. Forgot politics. Forgot blame. They simply stood together beneath the summer sun drinking root beer floats. Anna looked down at the silver teaspoon resting inside her pocket. She suddenly understood something. Home was not always a place. Sometimes home was the first moment you stopped being afraid. And for the first time since crossing the Atlantic, Anna Weiss believed she might someday belong somewhere again. The story had begun to feel almost ordinary. Morning roll calls still echoed across the camp. Laundry still swayed gently between wooden poles. Coffee still steamed from metal cups. And each afternoon, Anna returned to the kitchen. But something inside her had changed. She no longer counted the days since leaving Germany. She counted recipes. She counted words she had learned in English. She counted letters from her mother. 1. Then 2. Then 3. Each envelope carried traces of another world. A world of broken streets. Cold apartments. Long lines for bread. Yet her mother's handwriting remained steady. She wrote about neighbors repairing windows. Children playing among piles of bricks. A stray cat that had somehow survived the winter. And always, she mentioned the cafe. "We must not forget our dream," she wrote. "Someone must still believe in beautiful things." Anna kept every letter beneath her mattress. Beside them rested the silver teaspoon. She polished it with her sleeve whenever homesickness became unbearable. It was no longer merely a memory. It had become a promise. Then autumn arrived. Rain darkened the camp roads. Wind rattled loose boards against the barracks. Leaves gathered beneath fences. And letters stopped coming. At first, Anna assumed there had been delays. Then weeks passed. No envelope. No familiar handwriting. Nothing. She checked the distribution table every morning. Nothing. She asked Captain Ashford. He simply shook his head. "I'm sorry." Greta tried to reassure her. "Mail takes time." Anna nodded. But fear had already returned. Fear was patient. It never truly disappeared. It simply waited. Nearly 2 months later, Captain Ashford approached her after breakfast. There was an envelope in his hand. Anna immediately recognized that the writing was different. Not her mother's. Someone else's. For several moments she could not move. Ashford spoke softly. "You don't have to read it alone." Anna swallowed. "I think I do." She carried the letter back to her bunk. Rain tapped against the windows. Women whispered nearby. Someone folded laundry. Someone else hummed a song from home. Anna unfolded the paper. The message was brief. "Dear Anna Weiss, my name is Marta Keller. I lived in the apartment above your mother. She asked me many times to write if anything happened. Last winter was difficult. There was little coal. Almost no medicine. Your mother became ill in February. She passed away peacefully 3 weeks later. Before she died, she spoke often about you. She said you must continue baking. She said you should never stop believing that kindness can return to the world. I am sorry. Silence filled the room. Anna lowered the letter. She looked at her hands. At the floor. At the wall. At nothing. Then she reached beneath her mattress, removed the silver teaspoon, and placed it inside her locker, closing the door. She did not touch it again. The next morning, she reported to the kitchen. But she moved differently. Mechanical. Quiet. She kneaded dough without looking at it. Forgot ingredients. Burned 2 trays of pastries. Left bowls unwashed. Finally, Sergeant Novak approached. Anna. She kept working. Anna. Still nothing. He gently removed the rolling pin from her hands. What happened? She handed him the letter. Novak read it silently, then folded it, returning it without speaking. For several minutes, only the sound of rain could be heard. Finally he asked, "When was the last time you baked because you loved it?" Anna stared at the table. "I don't know. You bake because you miss her. You bake because you feel guilty. You bake because you are trying to keep someone alive." She looked up. "What is wrong with that?" Novak sighed. "Nothing. But memories are not recipes. You cannot preserve people. You can only preserve what they taught you." Anna's eyes filled with tears. "I wanted her to see our cafe. So did she. Then what do I do now?" Novak looked toward the shelves. At bags of flour. At sugar. At cinnamon. At butter. Then back at Anna. "You bake. Even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts." For several days, she stayed away from pastries. She prepared soup. Washed dishes. Cut vegetables. Nothing more. Then one cold evening she returned alone to the kitchen. Moonlight entered through the windows. Everything was silent. She opened her locker. Removed the silver teaspoon. Held it in her hand. And remembered. Her mother laughing while flour covered her apron. Her mother stealing small bites of cream filling. Her mother saying, "People forget hunger. But they never forget how someone made them feel." Anna wiped away tears. Then gathered ingredients. Milk. Sugar. Butter. Cinnamon. Vanilla. She worked slowly. Carefully. Not trying to recreate Germany. Not trying to recreate the past. Only trying to honor it. By dawn, dozens of pastries rested upon cooling racks. Warm. Golden. Imperfect. Alive. Greta entered first. She stopped walking. Anna. Others followed. At night she unfolded her mother's final letter. She read it again. "Do not stop believing that kindness can return to the world." Then she placed the silver teaspoon beside it. And finally understood. The cafe she imagined with her mother would never exist. But perhaps another one could. Different. Smaller. American. Yet still theirs. Months later, Anna Weiss stepped from a train carrying only one suitcase. A few letters. Several recipes. And a silver teaspoon wrapped inside a handkerchief. Years passed. She married. Learned fluent English. Worked in bakeries. Saved money. Eventually she opened a small pastry shop. Above the entrance hung a simple sign. Anna's Kitchen. Customers came for cakes. For cinnamon buns. For cream pastries. And eventually, for another unusual item. Root beer float cake. Children loved it. Adults laughed when hearing the story behind it. Anna always served the first slice with a small silver teaspoon. People assumed it was decoration. Only she knew better. Decades later, an elderly woman sat beside a window watching snow fall onto quiet streets. The bakery smelled of vanilla, butter, coffee, and warm bread. Photographs covered the walls. American friends. Former prisoners. Employees. Children. Corporal Morales appeared. Captain Ashford. Even Sergeant Novak. No one spoke. Anna finally smiled. "My mother taught me these." Morales picked one up. Tasted it. Closed his eyes dramatically. "Oh." Greta laughed. "What? If heaven exists. It smells like this." Everyone laughed. Even Anna. For the first time in months, the laughter did not feel borrowed. It belonged to her. Winter passed. Then spring. Rumors spread throughout the camp. Some women would soon return to Germany. Others might remain in America through special programs. Nobody knew who would leave. Or who would stay. Anna felt torn. Germany was home. Or had been. America was foreign. Yet it was also where she had learned to breathe again. One afternoon, Captain Ashford found her in the kitchen. There is an opportunity. Anna listened carefully. A bakery owner in Pennsylvania is willing to sponsor workers. He needs experienced bakers. You qualify. Anna looked down. I never planned to stay. Ashford nodded. Most people don't plan their second lives. That grandchildren. Near the register rested a faded letter. And beside it sat a polished silver teaspoon. War had taken away cities, families, dreams. It had stolen years that could never be returned. But it had not taken her ability to begin again. Some journeys do not end where we expect. Sometimes they begin there. Anna Weiss crossed an ocean believing she had lost everything. Instead, she discovered that even after grief, kindness could still rise like foam in a glass. And just like a root beer float, the sweetest surprises often arrive in forms we never imagined.